Welcome back to Munchausen's Proxy and your weekly sadistic pleasure in my self-flagellation. Last week I got an unexpected reprieve as the show failed to live down to its usual dumpster fire standards and accidentally put together an episode that was not complete torture for my brain as I watched it. Will the trend continue? This is the spoiler review for episode 8 of Gotham Knights on CW. So strap in as I go through the creative droppings left by former Batwoman writers. Last week was taken up largely by the most retarded art heist ever. This week starts with two retards doing an arms deal that is interrupted by Robin and Turner, who think a car trunk half full of guns is enough to arm every criminal in Gotham. And the director and cinematographer are either idiots or so in love with their own perceived brilliance that they thought this opening scene would be really cool if shot almost entirely from the point of view of the guns in the trunk. We do get a shot of Robin and a shot of Turner and one over their shoulders, but other than that, all we see is the rim of the trunk, the sky, and the terrible stuntmen leaping from one edge of the rim of the trunk to the other. Turner then closes the trunk and the screen goes black. We then get close-ups of the three gun dealers' faces. One of them has quote-unquote courtesy of GK written on his forehead, another has quote-unquote guns in trunk written on his, and the last guy has quote-unquote careful this one bites written on him and has duct tape over his mouth. They are all bound and sitting against a cargo container with the car nearby. Robin sees Harper writing on the bad guys and asks what she thinks she's doing. Harper replies that it is just so the cops know who to thank. Harper then seems worried and Robin tells her he will be there, presumably Cullen. They hear sirens and are contemplating an exit stage right when Cullen pulls up in a stolen food truck. They bitch at him about stealing a food truck and they jump in and haul ass out of there, continuing his rag of choices of conveyance, with him complaining that it was the only one he could find. When they get back to the tower, Harper demands to know where he was, and Cullen tells her his watch stopped. And here is where the entire episode goes full retard. She asks if he is still wearing one of the Court of Owl watches, and he says yes, but it stopped for some reason. Duella is coming down the stairs and says it is because nobody cares about craftsmanship anymore. Robin is ticking off one of the entries in the ledger, which is apparently the small-time arms dealer. Turner tells her that they could take down every low-level criminal in the ledger and still not get close to the Court of Owls. Robin is happy they got the guns off the street, making the city, and the Narrows specifically, safer. Duella thinks that is great and all, but she would like them to work on something else, and makes them all say it together, quote, clearing our names, unquote. Harper tells her they know. What does she think they are trying to do? Duella wonders if that is actually what they're doing. Why did they hand over the painting to the court? With it, they could try to find out more about the court. Instead, they gave it away to save a cop's family. Behind her, Cullen is frowning and fiddling with the stolen owl watches they took when the mutant gang held the Founders Gala hostage. Robin tells Duella they didn't have a choice, but she tells Robin they always have a choice. They just made a bad one. This is when Cullen pipes up with the watches, noticing all the court watches are broke. However, when you put them next to each other, the arms move in sync to specific positions on the face. Harper thinks they are not broken, but working perfectly. Turner agrees and wonders exactly what it is they are doing. And if your IQ is higher than the average slime mold or CW writer, you have already guessed. Then we have Harvey showing Cressida into an apartment in the distinctly not upscale part of Gotham. She asks him if it is a safe house or a drug den. He retorts that it is discreet, and, given her other options are prison or dead, it is a step up. She reminds him he needs her alive to talk. He shoots back that he needs more than just talk. He needs names and proof. She reminds him that she needs full immunity and federal protection, not GCPD. He is working on it but needs time, which is something she doesn't think they have. If the court finds out she is going to talk, they will both be killed. He tells her to sit tight and don't go anywhere or talk to anyone. And you immediately know she's a dead woman. Well, we actually knew that last week when she had her amazing conversion to the light, completely off screen. Lincoln March is up and about and walking around his house with a cane. Rebecca is telling him he's pushing it too much, but he brushes her off as he heads back to bed. He tells her the work is good for recovery. She leaves to get something to support his back, because apparently the pillows already on the bed aren't enough, I guess. Besides, the rest of the scene needs to happen. He reaches for his phone on the nightstand and of course knocks it to the floor because he reached for it like he was missing a thumb. When he bends over to get it, he finds a cufflink with Harvey Dent's monogram on it. Of course. Because Harvey is a complete f***ing moron on the show. And nothing in this entire scene is working for me. Rebecca comes back in with a lumbar pillow and he is mildly not glaring at her. She asks if everything is okay, but of course it isn't. He smiles a smile that fails to reach his eyes and says everything is fine. He thanks her as she settles him in bed, but she can tell something is wrong, even as she says you're welcome. In the tower, the idiots are trying to figure out the watch cipher. Stephanie rattles off the times the watches stop, and they wonder what it means. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there, rolling my eyes hard enough that I begin to wonder if I was not having a seizure. Turner flashes back to Joe Chill, reciting the first two lines of the Court of Owls rhyme, realizing that it must have been meant to be taken literally, which is beyond retarded. Chill said it was the key to find the court. Stephanie decides they are coordinates. Harper plugs the numbers into the computer to find out where they are, and then asks Cullen when the watches started freaking out the night before. Turner guesses it means that the Court of Owls will be meeting that night because Bruce figured out the court liked to gather in person to pass along important information so none of it could be intercepted. Unless, of course, they forgot they were robbed of their imbecilic secret decoder watches. Duella suggests it has to do with the painting, or it could be just a party, like Eunice was talking about. Apparently, the coordinates are to the old decommissioned Gotham Light and Power facility, which we learn after they come back from commercial. It is the only structure near the coordinates, and Eunice did say they like to hold their gatherings in weird places. This is when Stephanie's cell phone buzzes and she moves away to take it. On the phone is a pharmacist telling her that her prescription is ready. A prescription she has no clue about, which immediately makes her think of her mother. She tells the rest of them she needs to go. Lincoln then records a video blaming Turner for attacking him, laying secondary blame on Harvey for not catching him yet. His wife sits next to him while he does so, looking like she is waiting for him to peel his face off and attack everyone in the room. Harvey's assistant is watching the video on her laptop when he comes into the office and shuts it. She tells him he missed the city council meeting, and he says it was because he was attending a personal matter. He is also late for the campaign finance review. He asks her to get a judge on the phone for a plea deal, but doesn't tell her for whom, because judges are fond of giving out plea deals to random no-name criminals. Harper and Cullen try to talk Turner out of the idea of trying to infiltrate the Court of Owls gathering. He argues that they may not get another chance like this, maybe find out who some of them are, and maybe even more information about the painting. He tries to convince them that the court is complacent because they have no natural predators, nobody hunting them, so they will not be expecting to be infiltrated. When Harper asks how he plans to do it, Duella says she knows how, as she is looking at the photos from the music box. They dress up like court members would from the pictures. Cullen asks if the school has a 3D printer, and when he's told it does, tells Turner he can print out replicas of the mask. He will only have time for 2 masks, however, so they need to decide who is going. Rebecca calls Harvey to tell him she thinks her husband knows about them. Apparently, Harvey doesn't keep track of his cufflinks because he has no idea how that could be possible. She doesn't know either, suggesting the spies her husband has everywhere would be needed to figure this out. He says they should never have risked it, but she sees it as an opportunity for her and her son to get out. She tells him that there is another side to Lincoln the press doesn't see, that he is a dangerous man, cruel even. He tells her he is getting her out of there, and she says she is afraid and for him to hurry. Mind you, he is saying all this in the middle of the City Hall lobby. Back in the tower, Turner, dressed in a tuxedo, is speechifying again. He wants them to get in, get what they can, and get out. Duella comes down in an evening gown and what looks like black-dyed hair. She asks how she looks, and he pauses, dumbfounded, before saying she looks different. She smiles and says she will take speechless. He makes sure she is up for this, and she tells him she wants to save herself. Then we get the obligatory Marxism. Turner says he is used to being around rich asshats, and Duella tells him not to delude himself. Rich people are no more than glorified con artists who have convinced the people they are more deserving than the rest. She then says she learned about blending in from the best con artist in Gotham, her mother. By the time they locked her up in Arkham, she took on so many different identities that the police weren't sure who she was. They just called her Jane Doe. Turner reciprocates with his own parental issues. He then asks her to promise not to do anything stupid. She tells him it is too late. She already volunteered to go with him. And in the end, she will be the one proven right. Harvey goes to see Cressida, but she is not in the room he left her in. He looks for clues, and, like when there was a box with a ringing cell phone and a human head right in front of him, he somehow doesn't immediately see the tape player with a piece of tape with writing on it reading "Play Me." He plays it, and the piano music from his phone call a few episodes ago is all that is on it. Harvey's face gets a weird, blanker look on it, and the camera twists back and forth before going black for commercial. That night, the idiots pull up near the power plant in the food truck, the belts screeching nicely. Inside, Harper is outfitting the 2 faux owls with comms and cameras. Robin will be placing a frequency booster on the roof, because the comms are spotty in the area, while also being around as backup. Harper gives back Robin's goggles when she looks uncomfortable going without them. Harper borrowed them to upgrade them. Cullen then gives the 2 owls their masks. Arthur Brown is walking through the halls of the studio to talk to a group of fans when Stephanie comes to see him. He goes into his office/dressing room and looks at his phone, which she gripes about because she tried to call him with no answer. She tells him she is worried about her mother, but he makes excuses for her. She then tells him about the call she received from the pharmacy. Her father smiles and continues to make excuses, asking if she went and got it. She suggested Mom get help, maybe send her to rehab. He shuts that down immediately, asking if she wants her friends and the rest of the world to know her mother is a junkie when it gets out in the tabloids. She is amazed that he would rather ignore it than get her help. He thinks they are helping. He then tells her to call the pharmacy back before leaving the room. Turner and Duella approach the door to the plant, but don't know how to get in. Another couple approach as well while they knock and try the door. The other couple pause, watching them with concern. As the camera looks down at them, Duella finally notices the owl insignia to the right of the door by Turner. The 2 geniuses finally guess the watches are literally the key to finding the court. This is the worst infiltration I have ever seen. It takes them way longer to get into the door than it should. Any competent secret society would already be onto them. Meanwhile, Robin is on the roof planting the signal booster, which has a ton of unnecessary lights blinking all over it, as if the manufacturer wanted to make sure anyone using his product for nefarious purposes would be seen from outer space. The comms are now working. Inside, Turner and Duella hold hands as they walk down candle-filled halls. Turner gives her one more chance to back out, as they are already in the belly of the beast. Retarded. However, she tells him she is there to keep him alive. Inside a heavy red curtain is the gathering. They see court members, including a little girl, all around the room, with a string quartet providing ambiance. Duella is having trouble not snarking about or staring at the little girl in an owl mask sitting on a dais. Then a gong sounds and the court members gather around the dais, a covered stand placed on it. A court member steps up to the dais and announces that after 100 years of looking, they have found the map that the traitor Alan Wayne stole. He then unveils the map, discovered beneath the painting stolen in the last episode. The court member announces that they will finally be able to find what they have been looking for: Electrum. It will allow them to have immortality, making them rulers of the world that decays around them. Stephanie gets home to find her mom waiting for her. Mom says she caught her empty-handed, then tells her that her curfew is not a suggestion. Stephanie counters that by saying she was at the studio with her father. Mom starts talking about how Stephanie is her father's daughter. Stephanie tries to take her drink away and get her to bed, her mother shouting at her not to manage her. That is when Stephanie sees a new bottle of pills. When she asks her mother where she got them, Mom answers the pharmacy. Then she lays on the guilt trip about taking her to fencing tournaments, and Stephanie can't even pick up a little prescription. They fight over doctor shopping and how that affects Stephanie. Stephanie asks if she is even in pain anymore. Mom warns her not to lecture her. Stephanie grabs the pills and runs into the bathroom, locking the door. Mom bangs on the door, yelling and raging. Crying, Stephanie dumps the pills in the toilet as her mother cries, screams, and trashes the house. Back at the plant, Harper looks up Electrum on the computer. The siblings fret over the idea of a murderous court living forever. Harper finds an article from the 1920s pertaining to a meteorite discovered by a scientist who claimed the substance had miraculous healing properties. However, before it could be confirmed, the doctor was found performing unauthorized medical procedures on Gotham's poor. He fled before arrest, never to be heard from again. When Cullen asks if there is anything else, she complains that computer stuff isn't her thing, that Stephanie picked a bad day to ghost them. Cullen is surprised to hear her say she wishes Stephanie was there. That is when Turner calls on the comms, telling her he plans to steal the map. The court members take the map out of the main room, and Duella slugs Turner in the gut to make it look like he is not feeling well. They follow the map down the stairs, finding it in another room. They then take off their masks. What is it with Hollywood always having their characters take masks off at idiotic moments? They stand and stare at the map for a ridiculous amount of time. Enough time for 2 guards to come in. They fight them, easily putting them down. Turner then says they will be a little bit noticeable walking out with the map. And I wanted to scream and pull my hair out, because at no point last week did this occur to him. Duella smiles and pulls a switchblade, prying the map out of the frame. She rolls it up, like an art thief should, before sticking it up her dress. Somewhere. Somehow? They then smile at each other and make for the front door after masking up again. And they are walking way too fast through the room when the head owl gets back on stage to announce they have a traitor in their midst. Which, of course, is when Turner and Duella stop and turn to look back at the court members, who are all looking at them. But that is when Talon brings in a bound Cressida, and they go to commercial. When they come back, Talon thrusts Cressida to her knees, The owl leader speechifies about her betrayal. She says it is all true, but it cost all she held dear. And when she learned what they were planning, she found her conscience. Mind you, not when Batman was killed, not when Turner was blamed for it, but now. The Court of Owls finds her guilty, and when the leader asks what her punishment should be, the little girl from before says they should kill her, which is echoed by the rest of them. Turner starts to go to the rescue, and Duella stops him, asking if he is really going to risk their lives to save the woman who put them where they are. They should walk out with the map. He tells her to go. Just as Talon is about to decapitate Cressida, Turner cuts Talon's head off. The court panics, scattering. Turner grabs Cressida and tells Duella to get back to the truck. Why are they separating? Don't know. She is running down the hall out of there when two guards appear, only to get bat throwing knives in their legs and shoulders from Robin coming to the rescue. Turner and Cressida make it out of the plant, and he finally takes off his mask and she sees who it is. She stops to ask why he would risk his life to save her. So, he stops too, and tells her it was the right thing to do. He grabs her hand and continues running. But not back to the truck, mind you. Harper and Cullen are freaking out at the truck, wondering where they are. Cullen is wanting to go help when the girls run up. Robin asks if Turner made it back yet, but they cut to Turner, running through the woods. For reasons I am having trouble coming up with. She is thanking him loudly as they run, and they stop. Again. He tells her he doesn't want her things. He wants answers. She promises to answer and tells him she tried to come forward via Harvey Dent, but they found her. He asks why she would do that, and she tells him it is because of what she did to Bruce. Then she learned what they were planning to do with the map, making her realize she had to stop them. And here is where the story goes beyond retarded and into the realm of intellectual and creative bankruptcy. Apparently, the court killed Bruce because they learned he was going to give his fortune to the people of Gotham. Poor people would never have to resort to crime to survive. Without crime, the court can't survive. When Turner demands to know the name of the leader of the Court of Owls, she tries to tell him it is not that simple. And because the writers are idiots on a level that is truly astounding, that is when the court arrives to stab her through the back without either of them hearing or seeing them approach on a night with a full moon while they are wearing white owl masks. One of them takes Turner and goes to slit his throat when the leader stops him, saying they need him. Of course, somehow, Turner's earpiece fell out and Harper is calling out for him to answer. The owl leader hears it, somehow, and steps on it. The idiots all look stupidly at each other standing outside of the truck, so they too can be noticed and caught. Back at Stephanie's house, it has been completely trashed. Dad comes out of the bedroom after getting Mom to bed. He tells Stephanie she needs to help her mother when he asks her to do so. She tries to argue that enabling is not helping her, but he cuts her off. He then blames her for her mother's rage hurricane. Back with the idiots, Duella wants to go find Turner, but Robin and Harper tell her that would be suicide. Duella says that all of the sudden the Gotham Knights are cowards. She then turns to Robin, saying she thought Robin was supposed to be his friend. When Robin says she is, Duella tells her that the court is going to kill him. Robin tells her that if they were going to kill him, they would have already. They try to get her to understand they need to regroup and make a plan to get him back. Back in the woods, the court finds the camera Turner is wearing and takes it off. They have him kneeling, bound and gagged. They put a hood over his head and take him away, and the other members leave. The leader stays, and something I guessed episodes ago is shown to be right. Lincoln March is the leader of the court. Then we see Harvey lying on the floor with an owl mask on, covered in blood, as he seems to be regaining consciousness in a sun-filled barn. Probably the barn from last episode's paint flambe. He sits up and takes off the mask, seeing the blood. His hands are covered in blood. And that is how they end the episode. So much to unpack, starting with this whole plot being utterly retarded. But let's skip generalities for the nonce. The stupid starts with the director and cinematographer deciding to display their creative brilliance with the open shot from inside the trunk of a car. So while a fight is going on, all we see is the rim of the trunk, the sky, and the occasional stuntman jumping through the shot. Utterly brain dead. Did nobody on set suggest to the showrunners that maybe it would be more enjoyable for the audience if they actually got to see the fight? No. Instead, we get told one of the gun dealers is a biter, rather than actually seeing it. Then there is the little problem I mentioned 2 episodes ago. Namely, that the ledger they stole had a time limit on its usefulness to them. Or rather, the information contained therein has a time limit. Once it was discovered missing, the criminals would have changed everything. Dates of meets, shipment routes, criminal vendors, accounting practices, and the very code used to encrypt the ledger to begin with would all be changed. The information would be nothing more than an insight into how the Court of Owls and the McKillens do business, not where and with whom they do that business. Unless, of course, they are all as retarded as the writers of this trash. Oh, and why do they hold on to the food truck after making their escape from taking down the gun dealers? Why are they still using it later in the episode when they go to the Court of Owls gathering? It is big, noticeable, screeches like a tortured cat, and is probably slower than the winner of a track event at a convalescent home. The idea behind stealing a vehicle for whatever it is people on the run are up to is to find something fast enough to be able to get away from pursuit, but not flashy or memorable enough to be reliably described to the police. Oh, and the less tech it has inside of it, the better. Modern cars are wired to the high heaven with GPS and updatable programming and various other gadgets that can be tracked. Then we have the watches. How did the Court of Owls manage to stay underground as long as they have? I ask because they have done a number of extremely stupid things in this season thus far that practically scream, "Hey, look at us! We're a secret society up to shady shit." And the watches are but the latest. Let's start with how stupid it is that analog watches are somehow giving them time and place of the next Court of Owls gathering. Then we have the fact that they seemingly have no ability to cut out of the system watches that get stolen or lost. Then there is the fact that the watches are apparently literal keys to get into their meeting places. And finally, we have the fact that the court should know, or at least strongly suspect, it was the Gotham Knights who stopped the mutant gang at the gala, thereby acquiring the loot bag the gang gathered from among the guests. They should definitely know that a number of their members are now missing their watches. Watches that they are still sending the owl signal to. What did they think would happen to the watches once it was plain that at least Duella had acquired one? Are we supposed to believe the criminal elites of Gotham would not extrapolate that Duella and the rest of the idiots are on the lam together? They already should know that Harper is fairly smart. The GCPD did, and the court has them in their pocket. They should also know that Robin is working with our band of fearless idiots, which means someone being trained by Batman is collaborating with them. The McKillens should also have told the court that Robin was with the fugitives. All of that should lead them to the understanding that the Gotham Knights are 5 very determined enemies that also have their watches, and are working to bring them down in order to clear their own names, which makes none of this watch and ledger nonsense believable on any level. The entire Harvey Cressida storyline is also a steaming pile of excrement. I'm not buying Cressida's sudden conversion to the light. If she did not see the light after helping to kill Bruce and pinning the blame on Turner, there is nothing about anything else she claims in this episode that would sway me to think she was anything short of all in with the court. She knew the kind of people they are, and have always been. She knows who Talon is. She knows what they are up to, and has been their messenger right up until her sudden epiphany that immortal, conscienceless elitists are bad. They were bad before she found out about their chase for immortality, and didn't have a problem with it. So why does the immortality thing suddenly jerk her own conscience back from wherever she consigned it upon hooking up with the court? By the way, how much time has passed since the end of episode 6? Why am I asking, you might wonder? Well, Lincoln March got skewered by Talon less than an episode and a half ago. The sword went into his back and emerged from just under his sternum. He would have had to have surgery to repair perforated intestines, back and torso muscles would have been sliced, and stitches would have been used to put it all back together. However, there Lincoln March is, walking around the house with a cane, looking no worse than if he had mildly sprained his back. He also had no trouble bending over to retrieve the phone when he retardedly knocked it off the nightstand. I'm not buying any of that scene. Not even the cufflink stupidity. Does nobody in this show have a brain? Harvey boinks the hell out of Rebecca March, a woman married to his political nemesis. He gets home after a night of horizontal mambo at the March residence and starts taking his clothes off to wash up for bed. At no point does he notice the cufflink is missing and think to himself that the last place I would have had it was when Mrs. March was ripping my clothes off to have her way with me? Really? And no maid ran a vacuum through the room and noticed the cufflink either? That carpet looked pretty well tended to. At least she had the self-preservation instinct to know that he was suspicious after he found it and told Harvey later. Stephanie's family drama is both tragic and ridiculous. If Dad is completely aware that Mom is addicted to pills and is a lush, he either is waiting for her to OD, or he is so stupid he doesn't know that opioids and alcohol don't mix. The fact that she hasn't OD'd already is mildly unbelievable, but let's just ignore that part. Given that Arthur Brown is considered a puzzle master and extremely intelligent, the second of those options is impossible. So we are left with the idea that he is simply waiting for his wife to kill herself. The fairy tale the writers came up with, painting him as an enabler worried about bad press if it got out that she was an addict, is utter crap. All indications are that he also dotes on his daughter, up to and including her going to him with the ledger when she got stuck. Having him back up the wife's violent behavior and ignoring the abuse is also slightly less than believable, especially when he acts like it is a chore to enable Mom's addiction rather than him appearing to do it because he is unreasonably in love with her enough to put up with all that addiction comes with, and more. He is literally throwing his daughter and his public image into a cage with a lioness hopped up on pills and booze and hoping the lioness doesn't maul both. Lincoln March doing a video blaming Turner Hayes for stabbing him was also retarded. That is when you know he is with the court for certain. Only the court would be linking the two. Him laying the blame on Harvey for not catching Turner is logical. What is not working for me is the expression on Rebecca's face during the whole thing. She either has this blank, soulless thing going on, or she looks like she is waiting for him to turn to her and accuse her on live TV as being part of the whole thing. I've said it before, but the episode shows that it bears repeating. Lawrence DeMille is not good on this show, as she has been on others. Of course, nobody is good on this show, with the possible exception of Olivia Rose Keegan. Personally, I think the whole infiltrate the Court of Owls gathering thing was idiotic. At most, they would find a bunch of people in owl masks and maybe find the painting. There was little to no chance they would find out who any of them were, especially if they were trying to interact with them as little as possible, which should have been the plan to decrease the chances they would be found out. Given all the other things I've talked about in regards to the Court of Owls being a club of retards, the idea that they would be complacent to the point that the idiots would not be able to infiltrate them is not out of the realm of possibility. Now, if I were Turner, I definitely would not have taken Duella. She is too mercurial for such a situation and has a tendency to bolt from situations that she is not 100% committed to. See their assault on the boxing gym for details. Of the lot, Harper would probably have been my choice. However, she wound up being a good choice after all because the writers do not know what the word consistency means. If they really wanted to know who the Court of Owls were, the ideal thing would be to follow each of them home, thereby learning their identities. There are 5 of them. 5 members of the court could have been identified through that plan. When Rebecca calls Harvey to tell him she thinks Lincoln knows about them, I wanted to facepalm. At one point, is Lincoln March going to pull out a recording of her and Harvey sneaking around behind his back because he is bugging his wife's phone? Or Harvey's? And if she were so worried about Lincoln and his secret cruel side, why is she not doing more to try to derail his mayoral bid? This is the cyber age. There are ways to start undermining his public image without putting herself front and center on the 6 o'clock news, accusing him of torturing kittens, especially if it is a regular thing and has predictable triggers. Buy a nanny cam and a microphone and set it up to record the next time he shows his dark side. Then, all you have to do is release the video anonymously on the internet. The next thing Lincoln March would know, he would be synonymous with spousal or child abuse in Gotham. But no, she simply goes along to preserve her cushy lifestyle. The writers also need to or get off the pot. Stringing along this fascination Turner and Duella have with each other without doing anything with it is getting tiresome. Not that shipping is my thing, but this leaving it at awkward glances and pauses stage is boring me. At least if the writers just got on with it, there would be something more to watch than Turner staring agog and dumbfounded at Duella in an evening gown. The reverse has also been true in an episode of 2, so it is not a one-way street. But we are 8 episodes in, and we are still here. The whole Harvey losing time thing is also getting stupid. We find out this episode that I was right. He has been programmed to change personalities to the sound of piano music. That the court had Talon take Cressida from the safe house and leave a tape player was dumb. Why not do a better job controlling when Harvey gets put under by calling him again? For all they knew, Harvey would leave Cressida there until he could arrange her plea deal, better security, and federal witness protection. That takes time. It could have been a day or 2. Why the 30-year-old tape player? I griped on the food truck already, but I have to talk about it specifically in the context of them going to the Court of Owls gathering. They show up, and the engine's belts are shrieking their arrival. How did nobody on the Court of Owls security team hear that? Or if they did, why didn't security for a group of elitists who all probably have top-of-the-line cars not go check out the screeching mess pulling up to the decommissioned plant at night when they just happen to be there? Nothing about that makes any sense, adding more to my plaintive query about how these idiots managed to remain a secret society. Also, when Turner and Duella get to the door, There is no way any competent security watches those two on the camera and not immediately know they don't belong. And if they don't belong, then they have to be enemies trying to infiltrate the court. They would not have gotten 10 steps into the building in a competent organization's security net. Then we have the whole point of this episode, the magic bullshit meteor nonsense. The Court of Owls leader, later shown to be Lincoln March, says Alan Wayne used to be a member but betrayed them and took the map to hide it in the painting. Question: if you are Alan Wayne and you were a member of the court but were repulsed enough by them to quit and steal the map on your way out, why would you fail to mention it to your heirs that there was a court and to never let the painting out of a very dark hole somewhere deep under Wayne Manor? Or find whatever the map shows and destroy it. Or at least destroy the map. Why hide the map under a painting but forget to tell your heirs to never let the public near it? Why? Because if Alan Wayne did any of those things, the story couldn't happen. This is lazy writing. A simple act somewhere in the past, an act obvious to anyone with half a brain who engages it for a nanosecond, would derail this whole imbecilic plot. Instead, we are stuck watching the results of mental Lilliputians who think they are God's gift to entertainment. You would think that after 3 seasons of nothing but scathing commentary from audiences that the people responsible for that train wreck would be exiled to the carny circuit, never to be heard from again. But no. CW and Warner Brothers immediately put the writers from Batwoman in charge of this mess when their previous mess was canceled. But I digress. So Lincoln March gets up in front of the court members and gives his villain speech about how they will all be immortal now that they have the painting, and the rest of the world will wither around them. Then they take the map out and downstairs. In a vault? Or a safe, or into a vehicle to be taken to a secure location? Nope. They just put it on a stand and piss off. And when Duella and Turner go straight for the same door it left from, the guard has no problem letting them through. Now, do they grab the map and get out of there as quickly as possible? Of course not. This is the CW. They stand and stare at it for a minute first. Then Duella does what Turner and Cullen should have done last week when they were stealing the painting to begin with. She takes out a knife and removes the frame before rolling the map up and putting it somewhere? Where the hell does she put it? Ladies, are vaginas pocket universes or something? Because that is what it looked like she did. She would look awfully awkward with that hanging between her legs as she walked. It would definitely be noticeable. If you pay attention to where she puts it, it looks like she just attaches it to her leg. Somehow. However, that would be noticeable too. Anyone else have any suggestions that explains this bullshit? Anyway, this is when the guards that should have been on the door in the first place come in to stop their escape. They fight and the obliging stuntmen fall down. When they get back to the gathering, they walk way too fast through the crowd. When you are trying not to get noticed in a crowd of people, you saunter around. You don't stride straight for the exit. You certainly don't walk fast enough that it is noticeable that Turner is pulling Duella as they walk. But their escape is interrupted by the idiot that is Cressida being brought in by Talon. That Turner wants to save her is stupid. The act he does is even dumber. How he does it takes the prize. My only thought was, how did nobody notice him getting his hands on one of their swords? And will they be able to put Humpty Dumpty back together again this time? They were last time when he got half the Batcave dropped on him, but nothing was severed. Can they put his head back on? Duella gets out with help from Robin and goes straight for the truck with no problem. Turner grabs Cressida and they decide to take a stroll in the woods, with stops along the way for chit-chat. What the f***? Turner stops to take his mask off when they get out of the building, wasting precious seconds in conversation with Cressida. Then they head for the woods. Why? The truck is their way home, and it's not in the woods. Once in the woods, they stop for an extended conversation, which allows the court members to sneak/not sneak up on them. How exactly do 9 lantern-carrying, white-masked court members in party attire manage to not only catch up to the 2 who were hurrying through the woods, but manage to do it without either Turner or Cressida seeing or hearing them? I'm calling bullshit on this one too. Once Cressida's stupid ass is whacked, they take Turner after finding his hidden camera and stepping on his earpiece. Why does Lincoln March take off his mask and just stand in the middle of the woods by himself? I know he is looking at the moon, but it is dumb. And so is the final scene, where Harvey is coming back to himself on the floor of the barn. That his alter ego is a court member is moronic. It is highly predictable, but moronic. If the blood is anything to go by, and I would not put it past the idiots running this show to simply have him being framed, but it looks like he was the one to kill Cressida. Not sure why there is blood on his mask though. Unless he was near Talon when Turner lopped his head off, he should not have gotten blood on his mask killing Cressida. That was a close-up kill. He would have blood on his suit and his hands, but not his mask. Maybe this time the GCPD shrink, who should have her license revoked, will believe his concerns. I was pretty sure when he went to talk to her that this is where the storyline was going. The scene with the criminals wanting to save Turner immediately was also pretty dumb. Robin was obviously right about living to fight another day, and if they found the Electrum, they could live to fight many more days. But I doubt that is where this is going. That Duella was pushing to go find him when his comm cut out just irritated me to no end. This is the same Duella who was counseling them not to go into the boxing gym to take on pill-dealing bikers, but all of a sudden she is raring to go up against the entire court of owls? Nope, not buying that either. The only scene in the entire episode that worked in any way was the scene between Stephanie and her mother. It showed the terror and hopelessness people who deal with addicts can find themselves having to endure. We also see codependency and enabling on display later, but that was stupidly written and acted. The scene with Stephanie standing up against her mother's addiction and her mother in the full grip of that addiction was competent, which surprised me. I did not think these writers could reach competent outside of that one scene with Robin, Duella, and Eunice. I just didn't think Annalore had it in her. Stephanie has been an irritating, badly written character from the start. Showing her with this kind of family drama going on and her standing up to her mother's descent into the pit of her opioid-cushioned hell was good. Sonny Mabry did a passable job in the scene, although less snark would have been good, as she is trying to play a drunk, pill-popping mother, not a drunk, pill-popping 13-year-old. Overall, this episode moved along at a good enough clip that I did not have to stop to wake my brain up from the coma CW was trying to put it in. However, unlike last week, I was not staying conscious because there was anything good going on in front of me. It was just moving along fast enough for me to pay attention. And what I saw was stupid. Nearly every scene was stupid. Aside from a single scene that was not completely void of anything remotely touching the realm of good, that is. And even other scenes concerning the topic in that scene were stupid. To tell you the truth, I might finally have gotten to the point where my brain is simply grasping at straws with this show, trying to find something, anything, that is not so mind-numbingly retarded as to defy explanation. And everyone knew this is what Gotham Knights was going to be as soon as it was announced. It was confirmed when the showrunners were picked. The proof of our veracity is laid before the world every week. The way ratings tend to work is that the show's ratings are based on how the previous week went. Given that, I am not sure how Gotham Knights managed the ratings bump they got for episode 6, where they went from 383,000 to 431,000, and their demo went from 0.05 to 0.11. They quickly went back into the toilet, however, for episode 7, with ratings back down to 0.334 and 0.08. Episode 8 stayed at that range, with 351,000 and 0.08. That is territory that Naomi, another DC show that got canceled after 13 episodes, never reached. Batman only got to a low of 372,000 in its last season, which was shortened to 13 episodes. As of May 15th, 2023, Gotham Knight still has not been canceled by CW. Having said that, I would be shocked if Nexstar keeps the show. It has done nothing to demonstrate it will improve, thereby bringing in more eyeballs to whom Nexstar can sell products for their advertisers, especially in the key demo that advertisers crave the attention of. I have said it before, but I will say it again after having to go through this week's episode. I have no idea how Warner Brothers does not pull this show immediately, if only to prevent brand damage to the DC. It is already a laughingstock thanks to the creative bankruptcy of the previous CW shows and the mishandling of its movies in recent years. Audiences are coming to expect low-grade trash from DC, and Gotham Knights is not even meeting that low expectation. That is all I have for this video. If you like what I do here, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, share the video, and comment down below. I'm not sure which review I will get out next, but I have a couple of trailer reviews and my reaction to what Guardians of the Galaxy 3 showed me this weekend when I got out to see it, so look forward to that. Until then, tschüss.